This morning I ran a 2:10 third of a mile and my legs hurt. Then I played Kel's Fall for 2.5 hours and my brain hurts, and that just about describes this entire progression grind in Edge of Fate. It hurts a lot. Before I get into this entire discussion topic, I want to say power grind is good. I am totally down for a rewarding, mindless grind. They're kind of the core of successful MMOs. That's like their core identity is you're grinding something repeatedly. It's not super skillful, but you're making some kind of like progression or you're increasing a number or whatever. It's just fun to have something to do with your brain off and a video or series or whatever on the second monitor. However, this particular power grind is horrid. Up to 200, pretty fine. Every drop's an upgrade, which means every activity gives progression. I've talked about this being important before in other systems, probably not publicly online, but I have talked with friends about how Halo Reach was good because every activity gave you XP. Um, Similar examples, I can't think of many, but if you've got any, drop them in the comments, I guess. Point being, having agency in what you want to grind is very good. Unfortunately, that falls off after power level 200. Then, only portal drops give upgrades, and notably, A tier portal drops are the only meaningful way to progress. Because below that, you're going to be getting on level drops or like plus ones or twos, which are effectively worthless. Now, what is the problem with A tier portal drops? Firstly, there are too few portal activities. I get why this is a thing. Bungie couldn't exactly port everything into the portal because, like, they just can't. They have to make it run with new modifiers. They do not have a whole lot of people in the studio because Bungie notably lays people off a lot. And so they don't have the resources to make the system work. But that doesn't mean that I can just let them off because the system doesn't work. There are too few portal loot pools. On top of there not being enough activities to run, there aren't enough gear pieces to make a grind that lasts this long interesting. I think it was Kujay did the math, and he said that it's about 90 hours standard to get from power level 0 to power level 400. And that was before he knew that there are some quirks to this system. However, let's not get too deep into the weeds. Let's talk about why the modifiers are boring. So, there aren't enough debuff modifiers to choose from. I cannot tell you how many fucking runs I've done with my loadout locked and with my HUD turned off. It feels like a setting at this point. It feels like I have just turned off my HUD permanently. I am the new Sammy Cat. For some reason, I'm 6'3" and notably a little bit buffer. However, my HUD is off. It's gone. I don't know what a HUD is. I memorize my Transcendence by spamming left on D-pad. That's my Transcendence bind. And I just pray that I have a Lightning Surge because holy shit, you just can't play with it on. After you hit like 300, after you hit like 250, you just fuck, there are not enough modifiers that are good at increasing power to even hit A tier. And so you're just forced to run the 3 Giga AIDS ones. You're constantly running no starting ammo. You're constantly running locked loadout. You're constantly running HUD off. If there were more, it'd be fine, but there aren't. There's 3, and that's it. 3. I guess you could put Avant-Garde on, but you can't because you can only run one loadout modifier, and locked loadouts give so much more progress. It's horrid. There is not enough variety. Secondly, buff modifiers take score away. Up to 200, they don't, and that was really cool. I was like, okay, so I get a buff modifier, and I can just, like... It should be even, right? But I was always just slotting in as many as I could. But up to 200, it's like, okay, you get buff modifiers, and they don't affect your score, and you can just kind of vibe out, right? Buff modifiers are pretty cool because you could do grapple. You can get a surge. You can do like oscillation. Seems kind of cool. Not oscillation. What's the other one? Where okay, whatever. Point being, lightning crystals is the one I'm thinking of. Point being, these modifiers that are buffs are actually like mildly interesting. And so they make you play in a unique way that is a reward, right? It's better to reward behavior than to punish behavior. We're getting a little off topic. Point being, buff modifiers taking score away is really stupid because you can never afford to run them. Running a buff modifier means that you are essentially putting yourself 10 power level below what you could run without putting a buff modifier on, because one buff modifier roughly equals out one debuff modifier. So, in my humble opinion, buff modifiers should be limited. They should be, you get as many buff modifiers as you put on debuff modifiers, and they shouldn't take away score, because them taking away score makes them basically pointless and unusable. 10 power levels is not worth dealing 25% extra arc damage. It's just not. So, I hinted at this before, but post 300, you slow down even more. Drops become +3 instead of +4, which doesn't seem like a lot. Trust me, it is. And you're constantly forced to play with more unfun modifiers than before, up to about 250, maybe up to 300 if you're running full new gear. You can afford to just run locked loadouts and then like usually Banes, and that's about it. Once you get to 300, you are constantly forced to be at least 20 to 30 power levels below, and you are forced to run locked loadouts and no HUD. I don't run no starting ammo for pinnacle activities, I do for solo ops, and it's just horrid. It's just fucking horrible. Like, I wish I could just not have locked loadouts, right? I wish that I could just switch to a GL when I get to a boss fight. But that would mean I would have to be 70 under light. I would have to put 3 extra -40s on instead. Like, that's not the exact math, but the point being, it's horrid. It is horrid. And that's not even the worst part, because I'm not there yet. I'm like 320. Once you get to 400, the grind becomes genuinely unplayable, because you are forced to rely on time-gated rewards like seasonal conquests, which are done once a season, by the way. Awesome replacement for GMs. Stellar. Love that. Or you are forced to rely on weekly lockouts, like the seasonal hub reward track, which I believe is 3 drops, refreshes weekly. Or the Vanguard Arsenal, which is 2 drops, refreshes weekly. Or, no, I'm thinking the Armory. Or the Vanguard Arsenal, which is 1 drop weekly. So that's, what, 6 drops, counting all that together every week, and they're going to be +3s? Or, I don't know, I haven't gotten there yet. Maybe they're +2s and I just don't know. But, fuck, that is not acceptable. This is just, I know that's going to be better in Ash and Iron, but fuck, right now is it unbearable. Makes me extremely motivated to get to 400, right? As a side note, the seasonal hub sucks. It's just bounty farming 2.0. Like, why am I doing seasonal challenges every week and they're the most bland, unfun, loadout restrictive seasonal challenges of all time? Go play this activity because it's a bonus focus, and go play this activity but use a scout rifle this time. Fuck off. And that's not to even mention that after you finish those weekly grinds and you get your 7 engrams or whatever, however many it is, it's not very many, point being, the only way to continue your grind, and this is Giga AIDS, is to rely on these prime engram style drops. And from what I've seen from Defizzle, from Nico, from whoever, Nietzsche, whatever, from these people that are actually that high in the power level grind, is that these are like reliably 1 in 20 runs is when the bad luck reduction seems to kick in. So 5%, they're saying, is the drop chance if you don't have to wait 20 runs. Point being, you're waiting forever to get this drop, and it's a prime engram drop. It'll be +1 tier. That's how you get tier 5s. And I think it's a +3? It might be +2. I think it's +3. And so you are running hundreds of solo ops, and you just have to run the fastest activity, because remember, you're trying to just get to that RNG deficit. You're just trying to get to that bad luck protection tier. Oh, are we serious? Are we serious? The grind is culminating in running a bajillion solo ops. Somebody did the math. It was like 1,000 runs. A bajillion solo ops to get +3 tier 5s. And fuck. That's horrid. And like, okay, this would be fine, but power is coupled to tier 5s. Like, if you have to be over 400 to get tier 5s, and they are a random drop, and once you get over that, once you get to 451, you'll be able to run Grandmasters, but you can't do that right now. You're stuck with that random drop tier 5 bullshit grind, and you will be for the next however long until Ashen Iron drops. Over a month, I know that. Like a month and a half? Okay, cool, I guess. That's not even the worst part, though. The worst part is that power doesn't do anything. Fuck, it does nothing. If power boosted drop rates, if power was required to access certain activities, if power was required to make hard activities easier, it would make some sense to be able to be like, okay, well, you can do GMs and they're going to be 100 power levels above you, or you can grind out 100 power levels and then they'll be +0. You'll be on power. But like, you can't, because you're deltaed to 50 below in whatever you do at that difficulty. Why? What is the point? This just means that you're grinding for an arbitrary number, and once you hit the number, then you're allowed to get loot that you're already getting, but it's a lower tier. What are the benefits of an upper tier? A 10% better origin trait? Cool, I guess. 2 extra stats from your barrel and mag? Fuck, it just feels so arbitrary. Like, to harp on deltas more, because I don't feel like I've done that enough. In their current form, they are just completely retarded. You are capped under light all the time. Think about Destiny 1, right? When it seems to me that was like the best time they ever did deltas, and it was like in Kingsfall, or not Kingsfall, in Crota, if you wanted to do Crota, then the enemies would be level 33, right? And the highest you could grind was level 32. So you could theoretically run at level 30. You could run at level 31. Once you hit level 32, you would be better at fighting the enemies, but they would still be over you. If it was like that right now, if it was like, okay, a Grandmaster has enemies that are 460, right? And you can run a Grandmaster as soon as you hit level 400, then it would make sense, because it would be like every power level is getting you closer and closer and making that activity easier and easier, but it's not. All a delta is doing is making it so you can stack more unfun modifiers on yourself so that you can afford to get like decent loot out of this insanely, arbitrarily, artificially hard activity. It's horrible. And it makes your entire grind seem meaningless and pointless, and no wonder people are not playing. Moving on to tiered weapons, this was an amazing idea. Kujay talked about this way back in 2021. There should be legendaries, and then legendary plus, and then pinnacle. I think his tiers were legendary, pinnacle, and then adept. Whatever. Point being, there should be tiers of loot in Destiny 2, right? And these tiers should mean something. He said you should be able to reroll perks on higher tiers, and you should have a secondary adept slot, stuff like that, right? There should be meaningful upgrades to higher tier weapons, but the issue is that for the rarity and the difficulty of acquiring them right now, tier 5s are not unique enough to justify how god-awful they are to acquire. They are horrid to get. It's like 90 hours of grind and then an RNG crapshoot whether you can actually get a decent weapon. That feels really bad. And also, let's talk about tiers, right? Tiers and power weapon are tiers and power are intertwined. When you're at 100, you're getting tier 1s. When you're at 200, you're getting tier 2s. When you're at 300, you're getting tier 3s, etc., and so on. The issue is Fuck, that is too long. That is too long to be getting the same tier of loot. Okay? In a standard MMO, you would be getting, like, the bad stuff early, and then you'd go 20 hours deeper and you'd be getting good stuff, and then you'd go maybe 10 hours deeper and be getting some pretty cool stuff, and then after that, you'd be grinding your skill tree and grinding other stuff and target farming these things. We don't have target farming. We do, but it's horrible because it's like a 30% drop rate. Whatever. Point being, we don't, like, get anywhere. We grind for 100 power levels to get a 10% better perk because it's enhanced now. We grind for 100 more power levels to get 2 perks in each column. So your grind is a little bit less cancer giga aids. You get 100 more power levels, and then you get enhanced barrel and mag, and that's 4 extra stat points on the weapon. 4! Less than half of a masterwork? And then you grind for 100 more power levels, theoretically, and you get a 10% better origin trait, which is a complete crapshoot based on the weapon, whether that's actually going to be good or not. And that's a 10% improvement on an origin trait. How did this make it into the game? This is nothing. This is no improvement at all. And sure, the tier 5s look cool, and they've got the cool shader. They're not unique enough. Additionally, despite the fact that tier 5s aren't exactly unique, they are the new cap. And so, getting a tier 1 god roll, so imagine you get a 1 out of 3,000, and it's a 5 out of 5. Perfect. Barrel and mag. Masterwork. Both perks that you want. It's bad. It's still horrid. It feels awful. You won the lottery for $10. Like, what? Remember when we had the whole thing about crafting making world drop weapons feel awful because they weren't as good as crafted weapons because they didn't have enhanced traits, and then we had enhanceable weapons to fix that issue where your random drops would still feel good? How did we regress from this? Moving on. Being forced to run new gear to get good drops is fucking dumb. It's really annoying. Because I have this really cool Lightning Surge Bastion build that I've been ripping, and it's really cool. You can Bastion something and then Lightning Surge it, and it takes like a bajillion damage, and you can insta-melt through boss phases. I've been using it on -20 Kel's Fall to 1 or 2 shot the opening encounter against the Trickster. So cool. Unfortunately, Bastion is not new gear, which means I am kneecapping myself in order to run this build. That also means that my Eager Sword, notably we haven't gotten a new good Eager Sword since 4 seasons ago, that means my Eager Sword is kneecapping my grind. That means my exotic class item is kneecapping my grind because it's not on the arbitrary list of exotics that Bungie gave us. Fuck. Okay, I guess. I guess I'll just... I'm not going to finish that thought. New gear in itself is really stupid. My final complaint is about PvP. Bungie said in their own words, PvP was a viable way to reach max power. It's not. The only way to get good rewards is to run full new gear, which is annoying, and achieve very solid results each match, which would theoretically be possible. However, every single PvP Portal playlist is skill-based matchmaking. And what this means is that nobody gets to progress in PvP because you're just force-fed scripted losses and horrible connections. Fuck, the connections this season are so bad. We're already dealing with this new dog shit weapon stat that makes 390's 2 burst. Why are we now dealing with the worst connections we've ever seen in forced skill-based matchmaking lobbies in 3 playlists? 3 total playlists that you can play to get decent loot. The other ones are literally dropping year 1 weapons. What? Why are we sprinting backwards? Why did we activate the NLS drive in reverse? Fuck, dude. I just want CBMM control back. I should have told young me to play 3,000 hours of CBMM control in season 11. Because fuck, it's never coming back, is it? We're never going to have good sixes again, are we? Never again. Never again will I be able to run a pellet shotgun and a hand cannon and just call it a day. Like, just some more random complaints. Why are fusion grenades one-shotting if you have truth on? Why is a 200 weapon stat fusion grenade able to one-shot anyway? Didn't we experience enough one-shot sticky grenades back in year 1? Flux grenades exist. Why can't they be the only one-shot fuck you grenade? Why do they even exist in the first place? Why am I getting absolutely baked by 390 pulses from 10 miles away because they don't have proper range scalers? And somebody is running a 200 weapon stat, and that means that they get to 2-tap me with an igneous hammer that is literally unacquirable anymore, and I have one, but fuck, nobody else does. Maybe I should just pull that out and just become a fucking menace. That's what everybody else is doing. I mean, it's skill-based matchmaking, so there's no point in playing morality anyway, because Bungie's just going to put you in fucking Alcatraz, and you're stuck there. Cammy Cakes calls it Skill Island. That's a really nice term for what I end up in. Fuck. Alright. I am going to fight with all my mind to end this on a positive note. You know what? I'm glad that there's a grind in Destiny 2 again. Grinding my artifact, that was horrible. You know what? Grinding power level, that's pretty cool. It sucks that it's completely arbitrary, worthless, meaningless garbage. But hey, it's D2. So, skill issue, I guess. You know, I'm feeling a lot like Job right now. And Job was still praying, and so I'm still praying. You know what I have to say? Praise God. Subscribe. I'm out. Holy shit, Edge of Fate is so bad.